The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over the quiet suburban neighborhood of Maple Leaf Lane. It was a picturesque evening, the kind that made one feel grateful for the simple joys of life. Yet within the seemingly perfect home of Frank and Linda Thompson, an unsettling storm brewed. Frank had always prided himself on being a devoted husband and a loving father. With 30 years of marriage under their belt, he thought he knew everything about Linda. They had built a life together, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and the occasional disagreement over household chores. Frank would often joke that he had married his best friend, and in many ways, he believed it to be true. But on this particular evening, as he returned home from work, he felt a strange sense of foreboding wash over him. As he stepped through the front door, the familiar scent of Linda's cooking filled the air. It was a comfort he had come to cherish. However, tonight something felt off. The house was unusually quiet, and Linda was nowhere to be found. He called out her name, but the only response was the echo of his own voice. A knot formed in his stomach as he walked toward the kitchen, hoping to find her bustling around. But instead, he found an untouched dinner table, the plates set neatly but cold. With a growing sense of unease, Frank moved through the house, his heart racing. He checked the living room, the den, and even the bathroom. Still no sign of Linda. It was then that he noticed her phone lying on the kitchen counter, screen illuminated with a message that made his blood run cold. It was from an unknown number, the words glaring back at him. "Can't wait to see you tonight." The betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut. Frank's hands shook as he picked up the phone, staring at the message that shattered the illusion of their happy marriage. He had heard stories of infidelity, but he never thought it would happen to him. The realization that the woman he loved, the mother of his children, had been unfaithful sent him spiraling into a world of anger and confusion. As he processed the betrayal, memories of their life together flooded his mind. The vacations, the family gatherings, the quiet moments shared over coffee on Sunday mornings. How could she throw it all away for a fleeting moment of passion? The thought twisted like a knife in his heart, fueling a fire of rage that he struggled to contain. Frank took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside him. He needed to confront Linda, to demand answers. But he also felt something else creeping in, a darker urge for retribution. He couldn't just let this go unanswered. The thought of revenge began to take root, and as he paced the kitchen, he devised a plan. If Linda thought she could betray him without consequence, she was gravely mistaken. The following days were a blur of emotions as Frank went about his routine, masking his inner turmoil behind a facade of normalcy. He continued with work, greeted the neighbors, and played the part of the devoted husband and father. But inside, he was a tempest of hurt and anger, determined to make Linda feel the weight of her betrayal. He reached out to a close friend, Tom, who had been through a similar experience years ago. Tom listened patiently as Frank poured out his heart, sharing the details of Linda's infidelity and the messages that had shattered his world. Tom offered support and advice, suggesting that Frank needed to gather evidence before confronting Linda. It was a practical approach, But it also ignited something within Frank, a desire not just for clarity, but for a reckoning. As the days turned into weeks, Frank became adept at observing Linda's behaviors. He noticed her fidgeting whenever her phone chimed, her late-night outings under the guise of errands, and the way she would often dismiss his questions with vague responses. Each little detail fed his growing resolve. He began keeping a journal, documenting her actions, noting the times she came home late, and compiling a timeline of her deceit. One evening, after another suspicious outing, Frank decided it was time to confront her. He had gathered enough evidence. Now he just needed to find the right moment. It was a Friday night, and Linda had promised to spend the evening with him, claiming she wanted to rekindle their connection. But as he sat across from her, the truth rattled in his mind, and the anger simmered just beneath the surface. "Linda," he began, his voice calm but firm, "we need to talk." The look on her face changed instantly, a flicker of fear crossing her features. It was a moment he had anticipated, one that filled him with a mix of dread and determination. "What is it, Frank?" she replied, feigning innocence, but he could see right through her act. "I found something that doesn't add up. Your phone, the messages, I know about your affair." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of betrayal. He watched as her expression shifted from surprise to guilt, her facade cracking as the reality of his knowledge settled in. "Frank, she stammered, but he cut her off, the anger bubbling to the surface. "No more lies, Linda. You owe me the truth. Why did you do this?" The confrontation spiraled into a heartbreaking dialogue, filled with accusations and tears. Linda's defenses crumbled as she recounted her feelings of neglect, her search for excitement, and her regret. But for Frank, none of it mattered. The pain of her betrayal consumed him, and he realized that no amount of explanation could mend what was broken. As their heated exchange continued, Frank's mind raced, thoughts of retribution swirling within him. He had played the role of the good husband for too long, and now it was time for him to take control of the narrative. He couldn't allow her to walk away unscathed, to think that she could betray their vows without consequences. In that moment, he decided that he would not only confront her, but also ensure she would understand the gravity of her actions. It wouldn't be easy, and he knew it would hurt, but he felt a sense of purpose ignite within him. Frank wanted her to experience the same heartbreak she had inflicted upon him. As they faced each other, the tension crackling like electricity, Frank's mind was set. He would uncover every hidden detail of her betrayal, exposing the truth to the world, ensuring that Linda would be forced to confront the fallout of her choices. He would become a force of reckoning, and though it might take time, he would make sure she understood the pain of her betrayal fully. So, as the sun set on that tumultuous evening, Frank felt a cold resolve settle over him. The path of revenge was fraught with challenges, but he was ready to embark on a journey that would redefine him, a journey that would transform his pain into purpose. And as he laid awake that night, plotting his next move, he knew that he was only just beginning to grasp the true depth of betrayal and the lengths he would go to reclaim his dignity. Frank's heart raced as he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, the shadows dancing in the dim light. The anger coursing through him was like a wildfire, consuming everything in its path. He had loved Linda fiercely, and now he felt as if she had taken a knife to his soul. As he turned over the events of the evening in his mind, he realized that he didn't just want to confront her. He wanted her to truly understand the pain she had caused. The following morning, while Linda prepared breakfast, Frank decided to put his plan into action. He had always been a meticulous man, and this situation called for careful strategy. He would not only confront Linda again, but also bring her infidelity to light in a way that would leave a lasting impact. He remembered a saying his father used to tell him, "The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose, it will defend itself." With that sentiment in mind, Frank began gathering more evidence. He reached out to a private investigator he had used for a minor issue years prior, when he suspected a neighbor of shady dealings. After a few conversations and a small payment, he enlisted the investigator to tail Linda discreetly. Frank wanted to know who this man was and how deep the betrayal ran. Days turned into weeks, and each evening, Frank returned home to find Linda more engrossed in her own world, her phone glued to her side, often texting or on calls. He noted the little details, the way she would smile at her screen, a smile that was once reserved for him. The investigator provided photos and snippets of conversations that painted a vivid picture. Dinners, late-night rendezvous, and laughter shared with someone who wasn't him. Now armed with undeniable proof, Frank's resolve hardened. He began to consider not just confronting Linda, but also the idea of letting her know that he had the upper hand in this situation. He envisioned a gathering of their closest friends and family, a dinner where he would unveil the truth. The thought sent a shiver of excitement through him. It would be the ultimate act of reclaiming his dignity. One evening, under the guise of wanting to celebrate their anniversary, Frank invited their closest friends over. He meticulously planned every detail, from the food to the seating arrangements, ensuring that everyone who mattered would be present. In his mind, he rehearsed the moment he would reveal Linda's betrayal. He imagined the shock on their faces, the whispers that would ripple through the room, and the realization that Linda's facade was crumbling before their eyes. As the day approached, Frank found himself pacing the living room, rehearsing his speech. He wanted to be strong, but not cruel. He wanted to show the truth without losing his composure. In the days leading up to the dinner, he watched Linda prepare excitedly, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. The night of the dinner arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation. Friends filled their home, laughter mingling with the aroma of a sumptuous meal. Frank played the perfect host, engaging in light conversation, while secretly planning the moment he would drop the bombshell. He watched Linda laugh, her eyes sparkling with joy, and for a fleeting moment, he felt a pang of nostalgia for the love they once shared. But it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of her betrayal. As dessert was served and the conversation flowed, Frank sensed the moment had come. He stood up, tapping his glass, to garner attention. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began, his voice steady and clear. "Linda and I have shared many wonderful years together, but tonight I must share something that has been weighing heavily on my heart." The room quieted, the laughter fading into a tense silence. Frank took a deep breath, locking eyes with Linda, whose smile faltered as she sensed the shift in atmosphere. "I have discovered that my wife has been unfaithful to me. She has been seeing someone else, and I have gathered evidence of her betrayal." Gasps filled the room, and Frank continued, "I believe that love should be built on trust, and when that trust is shattered, the foundation crumbles." He pulled out the photos from the investigator, holding them up for everyone to see. The room erupted in whispers, and he could see the shock on his friends' faces, the betrayal reflected back at him. Linda's face went pale as the realization of what was happening sank in. "Frank, please," she stammered, but he cut her off. "No more excuses, Linda. You wanted to play with fire, and now you're getting burned." He felt a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow wash over him. Linda's facade was shattered, and the tears streaming down her cheeks mirrored the devastation he felt inside. But he knew this was necessary. She needed to understand the weight of her actions, and this was his moment of empowerment. As the evening unfolded, Frank could see the transformation in the room. Friends who had once admired Linda now looked at her with pity and disbelief. Frank's heart, though heavy, felt lighter in a way. He had reclaimed a piece of himself that he thought was lost forever. But as the guests left, murmuring among themselves, Frank felt a need for more than just public exposure. He wanted to ensure that Linda would truly comprehend the gravity of her betrayal. He knew he had to take it a step further, and the thought of how to make her feel the repercussions of her actions consumed him. The night had been just the beginning. Now he had to decide how to ensure that this lesson would linger in Linda's mind long after the shock wore off. As he lay in bed that night, he contemplated his next move, knowing it would be a pivotal moment in both their lives.